Have you ever wondered if that silent shadow by your feet was more than just a cat? What if the gaze behind those eyes wasn't new, but ancient? What if your beloved feline didn't just vanish after death, but returned in spirit, watching over you still, waiting for you to remember? In a quiet study in Virginia Beach nearly a century ago, one man, known as the Sleeping Seer, uttered a single phrase that would challenge everything we believe about animal souls. Not just whether they survive death, but whether they travel with us across lifetimes. Whether they choose to return not out of instinct, but love. Forget what you've been told. This isn't just about reincarnation. This is about spiritual loyalty, a sacred contract woven in realms beyond memory. This is about cats not as pets, but as spiritual companions, soul mirrors, perhaps even messengers from something higher. Pan. And if that stirs something inside you, an ache, a memory, a question you've never said aloud, then stay close. Because what you're about to discover may change the way you see your cat and your soul forever. Let us begin. In nearly every corner of ancient civilization, from the golden sands of Egypt to the quiet mountain temples of Tibet, the cat has never been merely an animal. It has been a symbol of mystery, of spiritual guardianship, of the unseen. Long before modern science began asking whether animals have consciousness, cultures around the world intuitively understood that cats move between worlds. They are not just companions of flesh and fur, but sentinels of the spirit realm, keepers of secrets that language cannot hold. To understand this more deeply, we must step outside the rational mind and allow the ancient lens to refocus our gaze. In ancient Egypt, the cat was more than sacred, it was divine. Bastet, the cat-headed goddess, was worshipped not simply for her protection, but for her power to see into the veil. Egyptians mummified cats not out of sentiment, but out of reverence. To them, cats were bridges between life and death, silent guides who knew the pathways between dimensions. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death. That wasn't fear, that was awe. Centuries later, in medieval Europe, the perception shifted. Cats were feared, associated with witches and the supernatural. Yet even in this reversal, the message was the same. Cats were not ordinary. They saw what others could not. They knew what others refused to remember. Whether revered or reviled, cats have always been marked as spiritual beings. Now, step into the 20th century. A man lies in a trance, unconscious, delivering words that do not come from waking logic. This man is Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, and his readings, dictated in altered states, speak of things science still struggles to grasp. Past lives, soul memory, spiritual contracts, and the inner life of animals. In his many documented readings, Cayce rarely spoke of cats explicitly. But what he did say about animals as spiritual beings has profound implications for anyone who has ever locked eyes with a cat and felt remembered. According to Cayce, animals do not possess free will in the way humans do. They operate through what he called the group soul, a collective consciousness that keeps them unified with the creative forces of the universe. But that doesn't mean they are lesser. On the contrary, it may mean they are more aligned with divine law. Where humans wrestle with ego, choice, and separation from source, animals, and especially cats, remain in the flow of divine instinct. They act in harmony with the universal field. They are not burdened by inner conflict, by guilt, or by the compulsive need to define their identity. They simply are. In Cayce's words, they are expressions of pure life force, undivided, responsive to spiritual energy, and open to serving in ways humans can barely comprehend. Nowhere is this more obvious than in the way cats intuit the emotional state of their human companions. So many people report that their cat appeared beside them the moment grief took hold. It curled up on the chest where heartbreak lay heavy. That it stared at an empty hallway just after someone passed. Is this a coincidence? Or is it service? Cayce believed that spiritual bonds could exist between humans and animals, not just across one lifetime, but across many.
And though his most famous reading on this subject involved a dog named Mona, the implications transcend species.
If a fierce lioness from ancient Rome could return as a family's gentle pet, what of the house cat that stares at you with unsettling familiarity? What of the kitten that refuses to leave your side as if it remembers you? Here is where the mysticism of cats aligns with Cayce's vision. While dogs might express loyalty through action, cats carry a different spiritual frequency, one that is more subtle, lunar, and receptive. They don't demand your affection, they invite your attention. And often they appear not when you want them, but when your soul is most in need of silent presence. In Eastern philosophy, particularly in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, this archetype is well understood. The cat is often a symbol of Shakti, the feminine, intuitive, non-linear force that heals not by doing, but by being. In Tibetan Buddhism, cats are not often discussed explicitly, but their essence, quiet, observant, detached, is akin to that of the Lama in meditation. They reflect our inner stillness. They teach by contrast, by shadow, by pause. There is a story, shared in the writings of a modern spiritual teacher, of a man who lost his elderly cat after 17 years. Racked with grief, he began meditating each morning with her collar in his hand. One morning he heard a sound, barely a whisper. "I'm still here." A few days later, a stray cat appeared at his door. It looked nothing like his old companion, but when he opened the door, it walked in, curled up in the same spot, and closed its eyes as if returning home. The man wept, not because he believed in coincidence, but because he recognized the presence. That is the lesson of the cat in the spiritual world. Unlike humans, they do not need to declare their wisdom. They do not evangelize or teach with words. They teach by vibration, by their mere existence, by their silence, which is often more profound than speech. In that silence, many have found healing. In that gaze, many have found memory. And in that return, whether in flesh or spirit, many have found proof that love never truly dies. The next time your cat pauses at a blank wall, the next time you feel a presence in your room with no clear source, ask yourself not, "Is this real?" but, "Am I ready to remember?" Because if Cayce was right, your cat may be far more than a pet. It may be a soul you've traveled with before, a companion from lifetimes past, a guardian between worlds, and its return might be more than chance. It might be destiny. But how do you know for sure? What are the signs? That's exactly what we'll explore next. Grief has its language, and sometimes it speaks through silence, through an empty windowsill where your cat once lay, through the soft thud of imagined paws in the hallway at midnight, through the aching pause when you call their name by accident, only to realize no one will answer. Will they? When a beloved cat dies, it may seem that everything sacred in the bond you shared disappears. But according to spiritual traditions around the world and insights from Edgar Cayce's trance readings, not all is lost. Something begins. The invisible thread between your soul and theirs remains unbroken. And sometimes that thread vibrates again, through signs. If your cat has spiritually returned, it may not knock on the door in the form you expect. It may come through energy, through intuition, through synchronicity. But once you know what to look for, you begin to realize a reincarnated cat doesn't always return with the same face, but with the same presence. Here are 7 powerful signs that your dead cat may have reincarnated or returned spiritually. Instant soul recognition. Whipping. You meet a new cat at a shelter, on the street, or even through a friend's unexpected call. The moment your eyes meet, there is no awkwardness, no unfamiliarity, just a profound sense of, I know you. It's not a memory, it's something deeper. Carl Jung might call it archetypal memory. In Eastern traditions, it's samskara, impressions left on the soul. Many pet owners report feeling overwhelmed by a quiet certainty. This is not a stranger. If a cat stares back at you with an ancient knowing in its eyes, don't dismiss it.
It may be a soul you've traveled with before. 2. Reappearing on sacred dates. One of the most reported signs of a spiritually returned cat is timing.
A new cat shows up at your door, or becomes available for adoption on the exact day your previous cat passed, or perhaps on your birthday. The universe speaks through alignment, not coincidence. The date acts as a portal. If you feel an eerie sense of perfect timing, it's likely not chance. It's the soul making its return known. 3. Repeated behaviors from the past. A reincarnated cat may exhibit habits or preferences eerily similar to your lost companion. Perhaps they sleep on the same corner of the bed, respond to the same name, touch their paw to your face in that exact way. Even if the breed, color, or age is different, these behavioral echoes are whispers of spirit memory. While skeptics may call it projection, those who experience it know the difference. These aren't habits, they are rituals of remembrance. 4. Unmistakable energy shift in the home. Before or shortly after a new cat enters your life, you may notice a subtle yet powerful shift in your home's energy. A sudden peace, a sense of sacred companionship. Some describe it as a warmth returning to the atmosphere, as if the house exhales. Cats are sensitive to spiritual spaces. A spiritually returned cat will often settle into the energy they once claimed, as though picking up where they left off. 5. Physical or symbolic markings. This sign is rare but powerful. A birthmark, scar, or even a unique eye color reminiscent of your previous cat might appear in the new one. In some cases, pet owners report dreams where their old cat shows them a symbol, only to find that exact symbol in a collar, adoption tag, or even fur pattern of the new companion. These markings act as spiritual signatures. They are not just on the body. They are messages from beyond. 6. Unusual reaction to old belongings. A spiritually returned cat often reacts strongly to the belongings of the previous pet. A blanket, toy, or bowl may evoke immediate recognition. You might see the cat rubbing on an object, meowing in patterns only the previous cat used, or returning to a long-abandoned spot. This isn't just familiarity, it's reclamation. The spirit remembers. Dreams, visions, and unseen presence. Before the new cat arrives or during times of intense longing, you may dream of your lost cat. But sometimes the dream feels different, clearer, more like a visitation. The cat is not fading or dying. It's alive, present, radiant. These dreams often precede the arrival of a new feline friend. Or perhaps you feel your dead cat's spirit in the room, and days later a new companion finds you. Cayce taught that during the dream state, we are closest to the spirit realm. In that space, soul recognition awakens. Taken together, these 7 signs do not prove anything in the scientific sense. But for those who have walked the dark valley of loss, they provide something far greater: continuity, reassurance, spiritual truth. And here's the deeper message behind them. Your bond with your cat is not broken by death. It is transformed. As Edgar Cayce emphasized, love is the binding force of all soul relationships, and it is not confined to human form. That means your relationship with your cat may not have ended. It may only have changed dimensions. But what if your cat doesn't come back physically? What if it doesn't reincarnate, but ascends instead? Is there still a connection? Yes, perhaps an even deeper one. In the next part of this journey, we will explore how deceased cats, whether they return in body or not, often become spiritual guides, teachers in silence, protectors of the unseen, and how your connection with them may shape your healing, your intuition, and your very soul. Because in the great tapestry of lifetimes, not all cats come to stay. Some come to awaken you.
Pay happens when a cat becomes more than a companion and transforms into a spiritual guardian. Not all cats return in the body. Some return in person, and some ascend into something even more mysterious. When your beloved cat leaves its physical form, the grief may feel unbearable, as if a light has gone out in your world. But in the quiet hours, when you think you're alone, something stirs, a flicker in the corner of your eye. The gentle weight on your chest at night, though the bed is empty. The inexplicable calm that enters a room when you speak their name aloud. This is not your imagination. This is the subtle arrival of what mystics and ancient traditions have long called a spirit guide. Ni spirit guide cat is not a ghost. It is not a haunting. It is a consciousness that has chosen to stay connected, not through form, but through function, through love, through service to your soul's evolution. Across multiple cultures and spiritual lineages, animals, especially cats, are seen as more than creatures of instinct. They are intuitive bridges, holding the invisible thread between the earthly and the ethereal. In Native American teachings, cats are revered as quiet watchers, keepers of dreams, and carriers of mystery. In Japanese folklore, the bakaneko is a supernatural cat spirit, often returning to protect a family or deliver a message. And in Cayce's trance revelations, we are reminded that no bond, once sealed in spiritual love, is ever truly severed. So how does a deceased cat become a spirit guide? The transformation isn't loud. It happens in silence, in stillness. It begins when the soul of the cat, free from physical limitations, chooses to remain near, not because it must, but because it wants to. Because there is still something to offer, something to protect, something to teach. Let us look at how this guidance manifests. Some spirit guide cats communicate through intuition. You feel drawn to certain places. You avoid a decision that turns out to be wrong. You feel held back or gently nudged by something you cannot see. In moments of doubt, their presence seems to anchor you. It's not just memory, it's an active energy field touching yours. Others guide through emotional healing. After loss, some people report an unexpected peace descending upon them, not from therapy, not from time, but from what feels like the soothing balm of their pet's enduring affection. The grief doesn't vanish, but it transforms into gratitude, into communion. And some cats guide through soul signals, small symbolic events that make no rational sense yet stir the deepest knowing. A feather where it should not be, a cat-shaped cloud at the exact hour they passed. A new kitten arriving on the anniversary of your loss, staring at you like an old friend. These synchronicities are not mere chance. They are signatures from the afterlife. Let me share a story. An elderly woman named Miriam had lived alone since her husband's passing. Her only true companion was Luna, a quiet gray cat who followed her everywhere. When Luna died, Miriam fell into a silence deeper than loneliness. One night, in despair, she lit a candle and whispered, "If you're still with me, I need to know." The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the window, Miriam found her old wooden rosary, long thought lost, lying on Luna's favorite pillow. No one had entered the room. But Miriam didn't question it. She felt it. Luna had returned. Not to stay, but to guide. From that day on, Miriam said she never felt entirely alone. She began writing again, smiling again. And whenever she lit that candle, she felt warmth on her lap, though there was nothing there. "She became my angel," Miriam said softly. "In fur once, and in light now." Stories like these may not satisfy skeptics, but for those who have felt the after-presence of a beloved animal, they don't need proof. Because spiritual bonds, unlike physical ones, do not deteriorate with time. They deepen. Cayce taught that every relationship is a spiritual opportunity. That includes the ones we share with animals. If your cat has passed on, and yet you feel it still walks beside you, then perhaps it is.
not as before, but as a guardian now. A quiet sentinel helping you through transitions, nudging you toward growth, teaching you stillness, patience, presence. This is the essence of the cat soul journey. From fur to force. From visible to vibrational. And in doing so, they remind us that death is not disappearance, but transmutation. So how can you invite that connection more consciously? Start by acknowledging it. Speak aloud to your cat's spirit. Light a candle in their honor. Place a photograph in your sacred space, not as a shrine to grief, but as a portal of presence. Practice meditation while holding an item that belonged to them. Pay attention to your dreams. Journal when you feel a shift in the room. Trust the inner knowing that whispers, "I'm still here." Because in truth, a cat who once curled beside your soul never fully leaves. They evolve, and their presence may become the most mysterious gift of all, the quiet companion to your spiritual awakening. If this resonates with something unspoken inside you, if you've ever felt that invisible brush of a tail or caught a glimmer of old eyes in a new feline face, know that you are not imagining it. You are remembering it. Honor your spiritual bond with your cat. Let it guide you, not just through grief, but through growth. And if this message brought clarity or comfort, take a moment now. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and most of all, sit still tonight. Listen with your spirit. You may not hear a sound, but something is always listening back. And that presence, it may be for once, but it is force now.